Our speaker is the Reverend Milo Grant, who uses the pronouns they, them. They are the associate pastor at University Baptist Church in Austin, Texas. They are a graduate of Bright Divinity School, where they earned their Masters of Divinity. They were ordained by Covenant Baptist Church in San Antonio, Texas. Milo was raised in Oklahoma, but transplanted to Texas for graduate school. Almost a decade later, and Texas has become home. Milo loves cuddling up with their doggo Rose while reading or playing video games. Even though they're not here, let's give them a round of welcome for being our speaker today.
Good morning, community UU. It is a pleasure to join you again, even in the virtual world. I do have to say that my doggo Rosebud will be in the background with me today, so hopefully she adds to this experience as we continue to connect with one another and these great questions of the universe in general. All right, at this time, please hear this word from Micah chapter 6. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before the Holy One with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams and 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? God has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. In 2021, tech entrepreneur Elon Musk challenged the United Nations to show him a $6 billion plan that would end world hunger. The proposal that was returned planned to save 42 million people in 43 countries from starvation, but it did not ultimately achieve the goal of food security across the world. Since Musk's challenge, the hunger crisis has only worsened. Extreme hunger has more than doubled in the world's climate hotspots, and about 1 in 10 people worldwide suffer from chronic hunger, meaning they do not consume enough food to maintain a normal, active lifestyle. The UN reports that 150 million more people have been affected by hunger since the start of the global pandemic. That means as many as 828 million people experienced hunger in 2021, which is more than 3 times the size of the US population. Current estimates suggest that as of this year, 2023, we need governments to invest around $37 billion every year until 2030 to tackle hunger. Around $259 billion in total to eradicate extreme hunger around the world. If that number seems daunting or unachievable. Earlier this year, President Biden signed the fiscal 2023 National Defense Authorization Act, which allocated $816.7 billion to the Defense Department. To justify that use of resources, we heard the typical manipulative words thrown around like preparedness, safety, threats, vulnerabilities, and, of course, freedom. To put it bluntly, America passed a fiscal plan for the national defense of 1 year that quadruples the amount needed to transform the world's conversation on poverty and hunger. Love has shown you, dear human, what is good. And what does the holy ask of you? But to do justice, and to love compassion, and to walk open-heartedly with the ways of life. I will be using that translation throughout the rest of the sermon. That translation is from Micah 6, but it is translated through the womanist lens by Dr. Reverend Wilda Gafney. The differences are important, of course, but holistically still define what is justice, what is love, and what does the Holy One in this universe ask of all of us. Only 104 non-federal law enforcement officers have been arrested in connection with fatal on-duty shootings from 2005 through June 24, 2019. To date, only 35 of those officers have been convicted of a crime. They often receive a lesser offense such as manslaughter or negligent homicide rather than murder. Black people make up 13.4% of the population, but make up 22% of fatal police shootings. Police killings of unarmed Black Americans are responsible for more than 50 million additional days of poor mental health per year among Black Americans. Fatal police violence is the sixth leading cause of death for men ages 25 to 29 across all racial groups. Spending on prisons and jails has increased at triple the rate of public education spending in the last 30 years. 80 billion taxpayer dollars are spent on our current prison system, accounting for 1 out of every 15 state general fund discretionary dollars, and the second fastest growing category for state budgets. Love has shown you, dear human, what is good. And what does the holy ask of you? But to do justice, and to love compassion, and to walk open-heartedly with the ways of life. While the ancient Hebraic prophet might not know how to address our systemic sins, it's easy to see the righteous indignation coming through Micah's prophetic rant. To quote Reverend Kaiser, who is a writer for Enlfeshed, a liturgy group focused on inclusion and justice, Micah is furious over how ancient Israel elites are handling matters of national security and the people's very human desire to be and feel safe. And of course, those elites were well acquainted with fear in that world. As a people, the Israelites suffered and struggled. They experienced exile and war. They were lost in the wilderness, and still they faced the ongoing threat of neighboring powers. But when vulnerability strikes, Reverend Kaiser emphasizes, communities must decide how they will rise or fall to the occasion. Micah's world was one where the exploitation of people, resources, and economic inequalities were created by the royal and elite buildup of the military. Ours is a world where military budgets, prison costs are prioritized over starving families and education for all. I'm sure the question, what is justice, has kept many of us up throughout the nights. I know I'm not alone in equating justice with the rare moments when systemic evil is defeated. I also know I'm not alone in admitting that it doesn't feel like justice can exist in the same world where a trans child's life can be targeted and wrecked by political extremists, or where sacred spaces of love and inclusion can be infiltrated and doors torched by strangers who were welcomed in. While I wish I could make all the pain go away, I dare us to lament that we live in a time such as this. This heartache is sacred. Our hearts have a chance to expand and give birth to the compassion needed for justice and love in a world gone wildly different than any of us could have ever dreamed or hoped. So this week, as I sat with Reverend Kaiser's words and the declaration of Micah, I found myself thinking more and more about community-led activism and how justice is rooted in communities fighting for each other. You see, the aspect needed for understanding justice lies within a simple but powerful reality: community compassion. Love has shown you, dear human, what is good. And what does the holy ask of you? But to do justice and to love compassion and to walk open-heartedly with the ways of life. Artist Carrie Newcomer once wrote, "We don't have to search for love, wring our hands or wring our hearts. All we have to do is know love will find us in the dark. I can't change the whole world, but I can change the world I know. what's within 3 feet or so. We're all body, skin, and bones. We're all the love we've ever known. When I don't know what is right, I hold it up into the light. I'm starting to realize that justice has to be more than the rare big wins. Justice is found in the small everyday act of compassion that we plant 3 feet or so around us. Justice is found when we let our hearts be open to the pain in our neighborhood rather than shutting out the sorrow because it's just too much. Justice is found when our community extends love and refuses to be silenced by hatred. Justice is found when we raise our children to be their fullest and truest selves, safe in our arms, despite a world trying to harm them. To me, Reverend Kaiser is right. When vulnerability strikes, communities must decide how they will rise or fall to the occasion. In a world as messy and chaotic as ours, the strength of community is just about all we've got. But if we were to face this world with the call for compassion, mercy, and justice, then I cannot be more grateful to stand beside a community like yours. Y'all stand on the shoulders of prophetic giants who taught you how to march with contagious joy and an unwavering spirit. You stand in awe of the ways in which community continues to surround, in which ways you, community, surround and love and care for the people that are in and around you. The way that your welcome opened the doors wide and drew a circle to expand despite hatred or violence in other people's hearts. While the work is still here, and damn, we know there is plenty of it, I am convinced that we will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder, serving, loving, playing music, keeping bees, teaching the next generation how to walk towards hope and peace by the way you currently march towards hope and peace. We may not be able to change the world or the systems at play in our backyard, but despite all of our differences, we are rooted in community action. Community, as long as you stand together, you will plant justice and love everywhere you go. So as you raise and are continuing to be generational activists, and while we don't know what injustices will become in the years to come, we can promise to show up. We can promise to uphold the legacy handed down to us by activists before us. We can promise to pay attention. We can promise to be people who do justice, love compassion, and walk humbly, doing the very best we can with the 3 feet or so around us. Community, I pray that it may be so for you, that you may be surrounded and kept by the truth in which the love you share is stronger and braver and bolder than any hate or fear that is cast around you. May you continue to be the people who open wide the doors, who share your message, who love, and who decide that we will be people who stand up for what is good and who stand up for the people who need it most. This is my prayer for us, for you, as you continue to walk together in this community and in your community. May you now go out into the world following a love that is older than hate, listening to a truth that is wiser than fear, and kept and surrounded by a truth, justice, and love that will sustain you today, tomorrow, and forever. Amen.